There is a lot of confusion surrounding student loans right now as major repayment changes take effect July 1st. Financial literacy expert Janae Adams joins us now to explain what borrowers need to know now and how they can prepare. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's talk about July 1st. Why is there so much concern surrounding this date?
Yeah, so it's a 1.7 trillion with a T problem in this country, and thanks to the big beautiful bill, there are new changes that are coming after July 1st that has borrowers scrambling, it has them panicking because they're trying to make sure they're not affected financially by these changes. So I kind of want to cover some of the biggest changes so that they can prepare.
Let's talk about the SAVE repayment plan. As we know, millions of folks are enrolled in this program. What do these changes mean for those borrowers?
Yes, so there are 7 million people in the SAVE repayment program. And those that don't know what SAVE is, SAVE was the most generous student loan repayment program that was available, and it was introduced under the Biden administration. The Trump administration has pretty much erased it. And so those borrowers now have to figure out where to go 90 days after they receive a letter that says they have to change. And if they don't change in time, they get put into the 10-year standard repayment. So I'm telling those in the SAVE program to prepare for higher payments because the SAVE program was the most generous one. It was the one that was actually going to help people pay their student loans back. So make sure that you get ready for those higher payments, get ready financially.
A lot of high school graduates, they've recently graduated college. We got folks that are about to become seniors. What do these changes mean for families and students that want to?
She said a lot of high school graduates, they recently graduated college. Well, yeah, if you couldn't tell by now, July 1st is right around the corner. And people who were depending on the SAVE plan or using the SAVE plan, they're going to have to go under a different plan ultimately. And what SAVE allowed people to do with their student loans was it was more so based on the income, and it can also even be based off the family size as well. So for a lot of borrowers, especially like lower income borrowers, there were some people who were having payments as little as $0 a month. Now, this woman said that the SAVE plan was allowing people to pay their student loans off faster. I don't know how in the world you pay your student loans off faster with $0 a month, paying $0 a month. So some people just say things and you have to read between the lines. Some people just say things. We have to remember too that this is a very highly politicized topic. So as we see in politics, a lot of times each side will defend their point, even if it really doesn't make any sense. Maybe one side more than others. But as we see, this is going to be very real, and this is going to be affecting a lot of people. And as we've already been seeing, the struggle has been real. I mean, we review everything from government assistance to evictions. And now this is going to be one other thing that you have to be on the lookout for, and that we are going to keep our eye out for, because I'm sure this is going to generate a lot of content that drips into all the areas that we already go over to begin with. But y'all, before we get back into it, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. It only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also if you could hype, but definitely if you could like, because it's only a click. And if you're here anyway, you might as well just click that like button. Let's get back into it.
Seniors, what do these changes mean for families and students that want to maybe take out a loan after July 1st?
Yeah, so July 1st is that date that all the changes are going to happen. So anyone who takes out a student loan after that date, you will only have access to 2 repayment programs. And that's the new 10-year standard repayment program, as well as RAP, the repayment assistance plan, which is actually 30 years. And that is 5 to 10 years more than the current plans. What's also different is that those 2 new plans look at your adjusted gross income, unlike the current plans that look at discretionary income. So it's guaranteed that you're going to pay more on these newer plans. So those that do have to borrow money, because people do have to borrow money for college a lot of times, minimize your borrowing as best as you can.
So folks really need to stay in the know, because this can be complex. What can people do to make sure they are not falling through the cracks with all these changes?
Yes, definitely advocate for yourself. This is not a time for you to just let life happen to you when it comes to your student loans. So if you're a borrower with student loans, you need to be proactive in reaching out to your student loan servicer. If you can't get in touch with them, call the Department of Education, ask your questions there, and also report that loan servicer who you're not being able to contact with. Understand there are pretty much 43 million people with student loans. So those who are proactive, they're going to be the ones in the front of the line and get their answers from the questions that they do have.
In the commercial break, we were talking about.
This is word salad. What is she talking about? She said definitely advocate for yourself, and then you'll be in the front of the line that get your questions asked. It sounds so good, don't it? It sounds so good, but she ain't saying much of nothing. And she's not really giving much information. Listen, I don't even know if the save plan really passed all the way through. It it might people might have been able to utilize it, but I don't know if it had fully passed anyway. And here's the thing. It allowed people to be able to have smaller payments, right? But it also allowed for the unpaid interest to not balloon as much. So one of the biggest selling points with the save plan was that if your required monthly payment did not cover all the interest, then the government will cover the remaining unpaid interest so your balance would not keep growing just because your payment was low. So what does that really tell us? The save plan had the government subsidizing people's interest payments. More subsidization. More subsidization. And now, because if they're subsidizing it, where's that money coming from? A lot of cases it's coming from taxpayers. So the way I guess they were trying to loophole it, so it's not like you're actually paying for people's actual student loan debt, is they said, well, we'll at least subsidize the interest so that their balance doesn't grow. But yet she's saying that we're paying down the debt. It's making their payments lower. And then the government was trying to or I guess the previous administration was trying to subsidize people's interest payments using tax dollars. So they were going to subsidize and have basically us paying for people's interest while they still make it to where they don't have to pay as much on the principal. So it'll never get paid and you'll just continue paying interest forever. I'm sure the school institutions love that, don't they? We'll just be paying on this forever. A lot of things just don't make much sense, in my opinion.
Last week, I fucking hate student loans. Last month, I set up auto pay. Rash.
Her caption says, student loan frustration is real, and it looks like she's crashing out. It says, my final stage of full-blown crash out.
My final stage of full-blown crash out. I'm literally crashing out. I was so excited for tonight. Oh my God, I'm so worked up. I was going to get dressed up. I mean, I still am. I'm definitely getting a martini now. Last week, I fucking hate student loans. Last month, I set up auto pay because
Vices aren't going to help. Vices aren't going to help. She's like, yeah, I'm definitely getting a drink now. Listen, I guess it'll make you feel better, but you're going to wake up tomorrow and it's still going to be what it is. What you need to do is you need to celebrate. You need to get you a martini because you celebrated yourself making a plan for how you're actually going to be able to ultimately wipe this away by what you're going to do that.
I don't want to forget. I don't like being late. You could never get on the phone with these stupid student loan people. And I log on today because I have to get my fucking tax documents. Fuck my life. Life never ends. I'm like, oh my God, it says my payment's late. And I'm like, how does that even make sense? I set up auto pay last month with my card and my bank and all the stupid information. And then I call them today and they're like, it's going to be a 3-hour and 50-minute wait time. And then I'm trying to have dad help me. And I'm like, what did you guys have me set up auto pay for that if my payments are now late? And I'm like, I'm not crashing out over Mohila. You're ugly. I don't have time for this. I'm crying over a fucking stupid student loan. Not me. And
her caption says, waiting till July 1st for private student loans for PA school. It says she has 2 degrees, bachelor's and master's.
Starting PA school in the fall, just waiting till July 1st to apply for my loans. The AAPA and the PAEA have filed a lawsuit to overturn the Department of Education ruling of capping the federal loans. So I'm sort of like waiting to see what happens. I know it's a little too soon and, it's not enough time. I'm going to have a crazy faith and really hope that something happens between now and July 1st. If something happens and it works out well, then guess what? Baby girl is going to apply for less private loans. When I'm going to apply for my loans, I'm going to go through the Excel spreadsheet that the AAPA provided because that's very helpful and it's very detailed and it's very specific to the T, to every dollar and every cent. Hope you're having a great day. Starting PA school in the
She says she's waiting for private loans, which her interest rates are going to be much higher because she would be taking these out as private. These wouldn't be federal student loans. I wouldn't be surprised if she does have some federal student loans sprinkled in there. So you got people diversifying their student loan debt. Diversifying their student loan debt. So ultimately, that's not a portfolio that benefits you, the individual, at all. But trust me, these people who are, imagine, man, you take these student loans out and somebody, how, you know how an investor will have a portfolio? Maybe they'll have a certain allocation of real estate, a certain allocation of stocks and blue chip stocks, and then maybe index funds, and then maybe they'll sprinkle in 3% of crypto just in case that pops off. There's somebody who has allocations of individuals. They have a diversified portfolio of people who are taking out these loans, who they know are going to be on the hook for these loans, for these degrees and all this type of thing. Listen, if it's something that you have to do, if you want to be an architect, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a dentist, then I understand. It's going to pay off. But in a lot of cases, man, people just getting these degrees because of outdated information and outdated philosophies that no longer stand. And they don't have a pulse on what's going on right now. Sometimes when things just keep shifting, which we see technology, AI, automation, sometimes it's best to slow down so you can speed up. And sometimes it's best to just literally just stop in place and just wait and see how the landscape shifts and how the environment changes. And then you can start strategizing from there. But it's people who, when chaos emerges, they panic and they feel like they have to do something right now. And then they ultimately end up hurting themselves in the long run. Her caption says, PSA for those with student loans. I think she's going to crash out too.
I have absolutely no idea. The student loan system just got completely blown up, and most people have absolutely no idea. Save, gone. Grad PLUS, gone. IDR forgiveness, taxable again. New plans launching on July 1st, and Parent Plus borrowers have a deadline in a few weeks that if they miss it, a lot of their options just completely go away. I've been deep in this, trying to communicate to everyone, cover all of the situations to help people understand what their best options are. But in reality, it's just much too complex. I could never possibly cover everything. So instead, I've built interactive tools that help you, doctors, lawyers, nurses. There's career specific.
Borrowing for your kids, you need to watch this video before that date hits. Here's the date, July 1st, 2026. That is the date that changes student loans forever. And I'm not being dramatic. This week, the Department of Education dropped their final rule, and I've been going through it so you don't have to. So if you have federal student loans, if you're in grad school, if you're thinking about grad school, or you are a parent borrowing for your kids, you need to watch this video before that date hits. Here's what's being eliminated. Here's what's replacing it. And here's exactly what you need to do starting today. One is Grad PLUS loans are gone for new borrowers. If you are a graduate student who hasn't started borrowing yet, you will no longer have access to Grad PLUS loans after July 1st. Two, the SAVE plan is dead. If you were enrolled in it,
I think that's what that woman who was considering getting the private loans was referring to. Now she doesn't have access to that. So then she was considering getting the private loans, which will have much higher interest rates.
You will no longer have access to Grad PLUS loans after July 1st. Two, the SAVE plan is dead. If you were enrolled in it, you've likely been shifted into general forbearance. Three, pay as you earn, income contingent repayment plan, and the old IDR structures are being phased out. Private loans don't come with the same protections. No income driven repayment, no forgiveness pathway. And that's the trade-off that you need to understand going in. So if all those plans are going away,
right. So if she goes the private route, it's much more risky. You're not able to do it income driven. It's just going to be what it's going to be, as well as that interest is going to be what it's going to be. You may not even have the same type of options like you do a federal loan as far as deferment, or maybe even, what's the other thing that people like to do? I forget, but basically you out there in the wild with this large balance, and that has a much higher interest rate as well.
Then what replaces them? Meet the Repayment Assistance Plan, or RAP. This launches July 1st, and it becomes the primary income-driven repayment option for new borrowers. So the goal is simplicity, one standard plan instead of 6 or 7 options borrowers who struggle to navigate for years. But honestly, the devil is in the details. The student loan system has been a mess for a long time, and a little bit more messier recently. And the borrowers who act early are going to be in a far better position than those who wait for the dust to settle. So you've got until July 1st. That's actually enough time if you start now.
I wish she would have explained why the borrowers who act now will be in a much better position than the people who drag their feet. Why is that? Her description literally says, crash out with me about student loans.
I just had to recertify my income-driven repayment plan, which I've been on since I graduated grad school in 2017. So it's been almost 10 years. And last year I actually went back to school half-time to community college so that I could stop paying my loans. And my loans last year when I went back to
People will go back to school and take more debt just so they don't have to pay the debt now. But they'll be actually adding on to that debt and basically kicking the can down the road. So they're going to have more to deal with later. This is the logic that educated people are moving with. Going back to community college just so you don't have to pay your stuff now. Kicking the can down the road. And they could just continue to allow it to grow and grow and grow. And they're not even taking into account the interest that's going to also add on top of that and compound on top of that. And so they're ultimately just digging their situation deeper. But yet you're college educated. You're supposed to be one of the smart people. I'm curious to my audience. Has anyone in my audience who maybe doesn't have a degree or whatever, have you ever been shamed or had somebody on their high horse or stick their nose up at you because they're educated and you're not? And now we see all these people who are educated that ultimately, in their opinion and in the way that they are coming off, made a horrible decision. And I'm sure if you asked them now if they could go back and erase it, I'm sure most of them would admit that they would go back. And if not erase the education completely, they would probably do it different. They would probably do it different because you're educated, but you didn't account for or have any visibility of either what you were signing up for or what the long-term implications were going to be.
school were $94 a month. I just didn't want to pay any more money to like this administration. I was like, I'm good. They're all federal. And so basically I still pay $94 a month. I just pay that to the college. Like that's what it works out at kind of over the year, or it's like it works out at like $100 a month. So I like I'm not taking more loans. This is not the point of this video. The point of the video is I just had to recertify my student loans for my income-driven repayment plan, and my payment has gone up from $94 a month to $934 a month. Granted, I won't be paying that because I'm back in school, so my loans continue to be deferred. But like, I don't even have words for like, what are you expecting to happen?
Holy ish. Goodness gracious. I meet some people who have military backgrounds, and I'm like, wow, you get paid $3,000 for the rest of your life just automatically? I know people like that. But imagine being in a situation where you have this expense that's going to be over your head, and especially when you account for interest and everything for a long-term period like that. An expense, a hard expense. She's going to have to be carrying around $1,000 expense with her for a long time, for the foreseeable future. No matter what, she's going to have to carry that. And if she doesn't carry that, then that means that her balance is either getting bigger because she's decided to stay in school, because she's saying she's going back to school so she doesn't have to pay it. But there are links and timelines for how long you can stretch out forbearance or deferment, which one of those is just basically where you don't have to pay it. And then the other one of those is where you don't have to pay it and the interest doesn't accrue. I believe that's forbearance, but you can only do that for a certain period of time. So what may be happening is she may be going back to school and she doesn't have to technically pay, but that doesn't mean that the interest isn't still compounding on your butt. And so, dang if you do, dang if you don't. You just have to address the reality of where you are and what it's going to be. And I think you just have to start chipping away at it, if you ask me. If you ask me.
Happen to the capitalist society we live in. You expect my payments to go up 90, like times 10, right? Like 10 times more than what they currently are, and that I would continue, if I was paying that, to put money back into the economy? There's no fucking way. What?
Translation, and you would expect me to put money back in the economy? Translation, what she's saying is, and you expect me to be a consumer? Because she ultimately wants that money for her to be able to do what she wants to do. She wants to go to festivals and concerts and all this type of stuff. No, ma'am. Well, that's going to be your decision. Can't nobody make you put money into the economy. At the end of the day, that's on you to prioritize what's going to be most beneficial for you in the long term.
I'm not paying them. But what the fuck? I just had to recertify.
Okay, instead of student loans. Okay, I could buy this
Whoa.
Maserati
Whoa.
for $300. I owe $303,000. Okay, so I owe $303,000.
Things I could buy for $300,000 instead of paying my student loans. She owes. I was gonna give her some slack and just say 300,000, but she got a 9 after that 3, so she really owes 300,000 and $304,000 because it says $300,906.
$1,000 for student loans. The average interest rate is 6%. Interest that had accrued before COVID was already $26,000. So I'm gonna go through things that I could buy for $300K instead of student loans. Okay, I could buy this Maserati for $309. That's pretty much breaking even. I could also get this Birkin bag. It's a little bit over at $325,000, but I could make it work. There's also this really intense shredder for $300K that you could be useful. Could also go on a yacht vacation
How about a house?
for 2 weeks,
You could buy a
coming in
house
at
with that.
roughly like 200K euro, and then I got to tip the staff, I could also live in Indiana and have a nice 3-bedroom home instead of paying my loans. It also now costs $300K to raise a kid, so should I just have one instead of 2? And a rhino horn costs $300K, which apparently cures cancer, so now I'm really screwed. Okay, so
Student loan crash out.
Oh, and another thing, you can tell FAFSA to go on right to hell, and I'll meet them there. I'm not giving y'all a goddamn cent of my money, okay? Money that I don't have, by the way, but even if I did have the money to pay for it, you're still not getting it. Y'all the one that forced us to go in the first place, telling us that if we didn't go to college, we weren't going to amount to nothing, and, going...
I'm curious, y'all. Listen, okay, because I see this is the general sentiment overall for a lot of people with student loans, to where they'll say, I'm not paying it. I'm just not paying it. Well, what are you willing to do? Because are you willing to give up your degree and not be able to claim it anymore and use it and try to leverage it in order to help you? Which I still don't think would be fair. Let's say they had an agreement like this, to where we will have your student loan balance. So if you owe 200,000 student loans, we will have your balance. We will cut it in half to where you only owe 100,000. So let's say for that chick, for example, who she said her payments were going to go from basically $100 to $1,000, 900 and something dollars. Now your monthly payments will go to $500. That would be much more manageable because you still made the decision. So that's life. You got to live with your decisions. But let's say they halved people's balances. But the only trade-off that you would have to do is you would have to decide whether or not you're going to give it back. And you can't then put it on your resume. You can't then try to use it in order to get certain jobs, certain careers, and certain opportunities. Do you think people would do that? Do you think even if they wiped it away, people would be willing to do that? I don't think so. So I feel like most people would still feel like it's worth it because they wouldn't want to give it up. Because at that point, if they wiped away your entire balance and said, okay, well, just give the degree back, you don't get to brag and claim it and leverage it as if you earned it anymore because you don't want to pay for it. So just give it back, refund it. People would still not want to do that because they would still say, well, I invested my time. I invested my time. I worked hard for it. I think most people wouldn't want to give up anything. And here's the thing. What that really goes to show you is that, or what that would go to show you, is that the degree itself, I don't think is what it represents really even holds that weight anymore because most people were in college and they were partying. They weren't really learning anything that they end up using ultimately, maybe a little bit, but most things in this world, you just got to get the experience. You have to actually get the experience. You got to be there. Maybe try different things within the thing that you're ultimately studying or that you ultimately delve into as a profession. And then you got to notice the patterns from there. And you got to stay uncomfortable. And a lot of the real education that you'll really have and really retain is going to be your self-education that you take the initiative to be able to instill in yourself to begin with. So I see this sentiment of I'm not paying this, I'm not paying this. But I very rarely hear anybody coming up with solutions about what they're willing to give up to not pay it. Listen, I don't want this, or you can take this back. It's just I'm not paying it, but I still keep everything that comes with it. And that's not how life works. There's going to be an equivalent exchange. So what do you want to give up? Nothing. But ultimately, you're going to have to be responsible for this. And listen, I think it is modern day slavery. I'm going to be honest. The way that some of these loans are, I'll give people that. But you did willingly sign up for it and you weren't really paying attention. And you can argue that they preyed on people when they were younger. But I feel like a lot of times we're just going off of philosophies and things that we very rarely go deeper on and really evaluate critically. Evaluate critically. You have people with the most insane degrees to where you have to ask critically, what did you think you were going to do with that degree? And you'll even have people who decide to go and get degrees that they feel like would be easier to get than others, to where it's really not about what they went to school for or studied. It's really just about saying, I have this level of education, whether it's a bachelorette or whether it's an associate. They just want to say they have the level, and whatever the field is, it really doesn't matter. I see people get African American study degrees. I've seen somebody who had a performing arts degree who was a waiter, a male waiter, and he was straight. So I think he said he wanted to be an actor. This dude went and got a performing arts degree to be an actor, and he didn't have no acting gigs, no agent. So we got to evaluate that. But y'all, we'll leave it there for today. If you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. It only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype the video. Hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button and it shows the points. And since I'm a smaller creator, a smaller channel, we actually get more points per hype. And hype was designed for smaller channels. So that's why. But if you come across a video and you don't see the hype button, then it's probably been over 7 days. And hype usually vanishes after 7 days. So it's usually best practice if you want to hype on a fresh video to just go ahead and hype while the iron is hot. And then also if you want to become a member, the join button's on this video. And what becoming a member of the DXU family would come with is you would get badges next to your comments. So people will be able to see that you're a member whenever you leave a comment, as well as you would get early access to content and exclusive content that's not available to everyone else on YouTube. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video.